Hello, global family, and welcome to the Vuyo Show, your source on all things global business. I am your host, Vuyo, and today we have got not one, not two, but four stories that are shaping industries worldwide, from Hollywood to Africa, and from AI talent marketplaces to global fintech. It's going to be an exciting and riveting episode, so get your seat buckled up and let's go. Today, we'll be exploring the impact of major acquisitions, the growth of emerging tech hubs, as well as companies enabling global commerce. Now, the first story has had me sitting at the edge of my seat the entire weekend, wondering how did this happen and when did this happen? As we've always known that Netflix is a behemoth when it comes to content and digitization of content across the world. I mean, it's in almost every sector and every corner of the world at this point. But what they did this past weekend is revolutionary. It is game changing. Listen, this is what we mean when we talk about a brand new world, a world where Netflix is the fundamental and sole owner of entertainment, just across the board. Reports have indicated that Netflix is now in talks with acquiring Warner Bros. Studios, the company behind HBO, CNN, DC Studios, Discovery Channel, as well as the Warner Bros. Pictures. And this was what happened this weekend. One would call the largest entertainment acquisition in all of history. Now, Warner Bros. Studio has faced obviously challenges, in the past couple of years, declining stock performance, high debt, as well as the post-merger instability, as it has recently merged with all these different entities to bring it under one. Now, if completed, this acquisition would give Netflix access to HBO's award-winning content library. It would give to Netflix the DC globally recognized films and characters. It would give it the CNN international news platform, as well as Discovery's documentary and lifestyle channels. And fundamentally, what this deal would do is it would solidify Netflix's position as a global powerhouse. Controlling both the creation of the content with the studios, but also the distribution of the content as it would be on Netflix, right? And this would be controlling really the entire ecosystem from beginning to end of the industry, which is what we're kind of finding as a centralization of content more than it is a decentralization, which is what we've been working so hard for for all this time. But however, analysts do suggest that this could reshape streaming. This could, reshape cable networking. This would reshape film distribution, not just in America, but just around the world. And, it really is something that we've seen across the board on social media this past weekend, that there were skeptics, right? There was excitement on one end stating that, this is something that is revolutionary. We are seeing a change in the industry. Most often is just the skepticism around it all, that what this means is that, everything would be centralized into one place. And this is what one would call a monopolization of an industry. And if it is under one powerhouse, then, not much could be distributed across the board from a power dynamic standpoint. It would strengthen Netflix against its competitors, right? Like Disney Plus, Prime Video, Paramount Plus, who have also actually gone on the bid, wanting to buy Warner Bros. Studios as well. So this is quite interesting. I'm going to be probably unpacking this over some time, as these conversations and these discussions are going to be happening over 12 to 18 months. But at the moment right now, we've seen White House make comments about, the idea of the antitrust and the idea of really monopolization of an industry and what that would mean. We've seen, so much competition being considered as what would happen to cinema. Now that there is a merging happening within the streaming direction, which is what Netflix is. So what would happen then to the, distribution in cinema? Is this the end of cinema? Is a question that I think we should be asking ourselves. Are we saying goodbye to popcorns and large cans of Coke? We don't know, but we'll find out. If this does go through, I do see that slowly and surely coming to an end. I mean, AI, of course, is changing how things are done. We know that for a fact that the world is changing, but the drasticness of this, announcement and how it feels, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know if we were ready for that. And so we'll see how this unfolds. But I just wanted to let you guys know that be ready to maybe not have those cinema dates anymore longer after this. But if you're a creator, if you're an investor or an audience yourself, this is definitely a huge turning point. Content ownership and distribution are now, as I said, increasingly centralized. And the winners will be those who can operate at scale and influence culture globally, which is what I tell you guys all the time. You need to go global, darling. You gotta go global, because that's what this is showing us. That what Netflix has done is that it went across the world, went on this kind of tangent of opening up, and creating content from different verticals and different corners of the world. And now it has it at its fingertips, right? That's literally what's going to be happening. And I'm excited because this is like the classic case study of like a textbook example in a film or media like study course. Like, this is it. Like, this would be the perfect case study. We're like, let's go to page number 45 and talk about the Netflix acquisition. This will be a case study in the next couple of years in film school. What happened and how did this change the industry? And look at where we are right now. Don't say I didn't tell you. Don't say I didn't tell you now. All right, that's our first story. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this acquisition. I know that a lot of people have a lot to say about it. A lot of us are also just waiting to see how it unfolds. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to say too much until I see what the unfolding looks like. I think the CEO of Netflix has made comments roughly around the importance of a deal like this moving us forward into a new trajectory of media and entertainment. So there's a lot to kind of unpack within the story. It's not really a one-day type of thing, but the announcement of it was very drastic on Friday. I was like, wait, what just happened? Netflix bought what? What do you mean CNN is now going to be on a streaming channel platform? What? But we'll continue unfolding the story as we move along. Now, this next story is about a couple of 22-year-olds who came together and built this platform that has raised millions of dollars. And they kind of showed us about the power of what AI can do, and what the future of AI is going to look like. This company is called Mercor. It's an AI-driven global hiring marketplace that's recently raised new funding rather, to scale its platform. Now, what Mercor does is it matches companies with vetted AI engineers using automated assessments and AI-driven workflows. This is a particularly important, given the global shortage of AI talent. And startups and larger enterprises, struggle to hire the right type of engineers quickly. Now, Mercor's platform reduces the hiring timelines from just what would be months to just a couple of days, which is revolutionary within the hiring and the HR kind of space. The funding that Mercor has raised will, help platform development and AI features, the expansion into new markets, and improved global access to AI talent. Mercor is also part of a growing trend of technology platforms enabling workforce of the future. What does it look like is what the question is. Connecting talent with opportunity at scale. And this is not just a story about funding, but this is a story about building infrastructure and innovation for the future. Companies that are embracing tools like Mercor are better positioned to compete in the AI-driven economy, which is what we are continuing to see. And speaking of, workplace and a new era of the economy, is what we're seeing happening in the Africa tech ecosystem. I mean, it's mind-blowing that recently, after the fintech bubble that burst in Africa a couple of years ago, which I still have an inkling to kind of investigate how this happened. But we are starting to see a new turn, right, to Africa. Despite the slowdown in global venture capital, African startups, are starting to see growth and renewed investment within the continent. And data from Patek, as well as Brighter Bridges and Africa the Big Deal, they show an increased funding in fintech, AI, and climate change sectors. And there are, of course, countries that are leading the pack, including Nigeria, including Kenya, including Egypt, and of course, South Africa. Startups are adopting rather leaner and more efficient business models, which one could also kind of say that from what happened, within the fintech bubble that had burst, we are now able to see that there's obviously had to be a reevaluation of how things are being done in Africa. And that is happening right now, which is absolutely incredible to see. Investors are returning with realistic expectations, signaling a lot more mature, resilient ecosystem. And Africa's innovation is not only solving local problems, but it's starting to look like it has global relevance. It's solving for global problems from an African perspective and an African point of view, which is absolutely incredible to see. And we are seeing from fintech platforms enabling cross-border payments to AI solutions that are helping industries scale. The continent is proving it can compete on the world stage. And that's absolutely incredible to hear. And I'm rooting for it all the way through. We actually recently had a conversation coming up on the show with one of the leading ecosystems in the tech ecosystems in South Africa, one of the largest networks for the tech ecosystem. And what I heard was such enthusiasm and optimism about what's happening in the African continent. I'm going to be sharing that episode with you guys on the show, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. But what this means for entrepreneurs is there's significant opportunities that are expanding, right? Global networks are connecting, and African founders are showing that necessity drives some of the world's most powerful innovation to date. And so it's beautiful to kind of see that happening. And that's something that I want to be mindful of as you are going through and considering which sector is one to invest in, one to look into. Africa definitely is one of those 4 countries who are leading the pack, or ones to watch and be on the lookout for. Now, Airwallex, another global expansion, happening on that end. And this is our final story for tonight, or rather for today. The world, as again I said, fintech, and fintech is one of the most consecrated yet most important technology innovations of our time, because it enables everything else to kind of exist and function. But this platform called Airwallex, which is a fast-growing global payments company, it announced a major expansion of its infrastructure. This includes partnerships in the US, in Europe, and in Asia, as well as expansion of products in treasury management, multi-currency accounts, and real-time settlement, payment settlements. And why this matters to you at home is that cross-border business payments remain slow, expensive, and inefficient. However, Airwallex, and this is not an endorsement, is helping companies move money faster, cheaper, and more reliably across continents. Something that I've seen as a global citizen has to be a challenge for most, from business to individuals. Moving money and, just doing business globally is a challenge, right? Because of the idea that there's different currencies, there's different money approaches to each and every market. So being able to find a platform that does that for you is incredible. And this goes for startups, for SMEs, and large enterprises. Now, what Airwallex is able to do is kind of give those individuals a competitive advantage, right? The SMEs, the startups, because global business is becoming faster and more connected, and we need platforms like that are going to enable the infrastructure to make borderless commerce a reality. And that's something that I genuinely advocate for, and I think it's so important. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about Airwallex. If you haven't checked it out, let me know. If you are currently a global business girl or guy and you're doing, business internationally and across different continents, how have you used this type of platform, and how your experience has been in working with it as well. And I think when you look at tonight's stories, you can really tell that what's happening is a shift more than anything. Netflix is reshaping entertainment. Africa is redefining tech innovation. Mercor is transforming talent marketplaces. And Airwallex is powering global business. This is what we mean by shift, right? All of these different stories today are showing us that there is definitely a move and a desire for people around the world to see these shifts happening, sometimes on the optimistic side and sometimes on the not so optimistic side because of the implications of what these are going to look like in the future. The world is, of course, being reorganized, my goodness, around access, opportunity, and speed. And most often than not, the idea of speed is what keeps coming up in this time around AI, because it's like, are you able to adapt in a speedily capacity? Because this is the most fastest growing technology advancement in history. The rate at which AI is moving is unprecedented. So the idea of kind of being or reorganized by speed is such an unsettling feeling, but it's a necessary one that we have to be cognizant of, because it is what it is. And this idea of kind of Netflix consolidating content and distribution, African founders who are creating solutions from necessity, to scale globally, as well as Mercor in the idea of unlocking AI talent for companies worldwide, and Airwallex making global global commerce faster and more efficient. The leaders who will succeed will be the ones who adapt early, who think globally, and who act decisively, because innovation is no longer local. However, it is most certainly global. And the opportunities are enormous for those who are ready to seize them. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Vuyo Show, your source on all things global business. In today's episode, I hope that you got to get some insight, you were sparked a new idea. And with that, please do share, subscribe, and stay connected to this show. I'm Vuyo. I'll see you on the next episode.